about preparing your image for Photoshop. So our image that we're going to work with is going to be, I'm actually going to open up this one here. So I'm going to double click into there. And you should be able to get something that looks like this. So it's a camera raw Nikon file. So as you know, you can play around with some of these exposures and temperatures, but at the end of the day you need to consider that your image will be dark, and this is a little bit untrustworthy for me, so I'm just going to actually open the image rather than fix it up in these here, because I need to tell you something about mid-level controls and how things will actually print darker than what you expect. So I'm going to press open, just take it straight off the raw, and it comes into Photoshop. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is look at the image size and see if I can reduce it so we can play with what we're actually, or more or less with what we need. So if I go to image and image size, I want to try and get it around A4 size if it's possible. So I'm looking at the image size. Yes, it is quite large, and the pixels are even larger. I need to get it about 300, and here is the lock for both width and height. So I'm going to type in 30 here. 30 centimeters. Here is centimeters. Sometimes it's on pixels percentage, so always try and remember to keep it on centimeters. Even better is working with millimeters. So centimeters are there. Resolution, I don't think I need too much. 250 is good. And press OK. Just reduced a little bit, not too much. So let's optimize our image. So we'll go to our layers panel here, and I'm going to create a copy of it. Just going to drag it down here or press Command J. You should get another image on top there. Now the way I'm going to show you is called the destructive layer method, which means I'm going to destroy these layers a little bit rather than use layer adjustments, which is just down here. Sorry. There you go, I just pulled that up. Just down here. So we're going to go through a few of these things down here, but we're going to actually do it through destruction. With destruction comes the history panel, of course, and there's always a copy I can always refer to making another one. So it's a real hit and miss when you first start using Photoshop, but I find this for the students is more helpful to just destroy the layer, just so we can learn what levels, brightness and hue and saturation does. So here I'm going to Image, Adjustments, Levels. From this panel here I can press Auto, and that's giving me a quite nice image, a little bit better than what the raw software can do for me, in my opinion. But over here I just want to see what it's like in the options panel to see what's the best way of leveling out all these greys in here so it doesn't look like one big overload of histogram depth in there. So I'm going to press Option, Enhance. I'm going to see that looks alright. Per channel, fine, light and dark, and look at the best way. Now this one here is actually alright, so I'm going to pick between this one or that one. I might just choose that one, because what I'm actually looking at is the mid-levels and how they're behaving. If there's a big colour shift, and what I really want to ultimately do is have like a 3D look, something that pushes in and pushes out in a way that we can interpret that there's a shape and form there. Press OK. That's where I'm going, and I'm going to push this up so it's around this level here. That is your highlights. I usually take it to the first peak of any hill. Mid-levels always sit around the middle, but I always push it up a little bit more. It's sort of the fill area of the camera, so you really want to show information of what's happening in here. So it's a real mystery. Press OK, and you're sort of committed to that now. So from there to there, you can see there's a major difference. I'll just move in now. To zoom in, I've got the space bar and the Command key. You might have space and Alt down, so I'm going to move in quite in here because I want to see what's going on in there. The next thing I'm going to do to completely destroy this layer is go through brightness and contrast. So Image, Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast. I'm always going to lift it higher. Everything becomes lighter because when we print, everything is 30% darker. So we need to keep that in mind, that the colours are only coming through because there's a light bulb behind those colours. But if it was to print, they'll be much darker. So I almost need to work knowing that I have to work in a lighter way. So this brightness, I usually keep it under 10. There's a general rule with this, and not to make it too bright and not to make it too contrast. So if you turn the preview on and off, that's sort of what we're looking at. And I can see here that we are getting a lot more details of what's going on in there. Press OK. The next thing we're going to do is have a look at brightness and contrast. Image adjustments, brightness and contrast. The next area to destroy is hue and saturation. So I'm going to image, adjustments, and hue and saturation. Now these work very close together, vibrance and hue and saturation. I tend to lean towards hue and saturation because sometimes there's a bit of colour cast that's happening and I'm able to use the hue backwards and forwards. Again, I'm interested in making it more saturated, so I'm going to put in 10. Try not to exceed that. I can see it's already out of gamut in the red. And also lift the lightness up. We still need more lightness in there. Imagine all this black being a lot darker than what it really is or what you really see. Pressing OK. And yeah, from here to here, levels, brightness and contrast, and hue and saturation. So we're really bringing out those colours. So the general rule is to keep it up 10% or less, not too much. If you want to have a look at what is out of gamut, what's not going to print, there's something in here called soft proofing. The key is Command Y, and that's how it's going to look. So it does dull down heaps. If you don't want to do the keyboard thing, Command Y, you can always go to View, Proof Setup. That's what the printer is there for. That's CMYK, which is what it's for printing. And Command Y here is Proof Colors. Proof Colors. Okay, so let's have a look at what it will look like and work in that mode. So here we have a look at the image and say, what does it need? What's going on? I think with skin, it's important to let you know that no one has the best skin. And there's things that are like the healing tool, healing brush tool, where you can use, the way you use it is obviously not like that, just go straight into it. You just press the Option key down, you get like a little target, and that picks up the tone. Click in there, and you can actually, I'm going to right click and make the brush picker. So by right clicking you can, and you can actually just fix a little bit of the, just a little bit, not too much. I still like the natural look. Okay, just in there. All done. Alright, the next thing I'm going to look at is the 3D function of it. This is still a little bit grey, so you've got to look at what's light, what's dark, and what's grey. So there's actually a quite big bulk of grey that's happening. So if I move into my burn tool here, that's how big it is. I can always right click it and make it a bit smaller. I don't want it too hard because it will give me a round circle. So I just give it a bit of a feathered look, which will ultimately look like that. Okay, so I'm just going to burn off some areas. I've got midtones on, that's what I'm looking at. Dropping the exposure to about 20. I'm going to protect the tones. So I've got midtones. See here I can actually say, well, the dark points I want darker. The highlights I want darker. So I just want to play with the midtones of the picture. And just go in there and just show a line underneath. Show that she's now looking into like a 3D look. I'm going to actually copy this so you can see what it looks later. In there, so in there, a little bit more detail. So I'm actually creating shape and form. Zooming out, holding my space, command and option. Right clicking to make it bigger as a full shape. I'd like to see these areas darker and a little bit more detail in there. Just pushing things in and out. Okay, next thing, what I do want to actually have a look at is getting the shadows to be darker, particularly around the eyebrow. So because I'm picking the dark shadow in there to be my guide, it will darken only the dark areas, not the mid-tones, not the highlights. I'm going in there making that darker, and the eyelashes darker as well. Making nostril. It's only affecting the darker bits. There we go. So now she's really pushed in and out. Pressing my spacebar to pan around. Okay, just going to do a bit of a rub in the hair so all the darker areas will sort of show. Now the dodge tool does the opposite. It actually makes things lighter, and I do want to make the push in, push out look. So if I go into there and just give it a little bit more lightness, particularly around what's near the top. So I'm going in there, just pushing it a bit lighter. Not too much, it'll start to fake out. Taking the tones off because I can see it's getting a little bit yellow, and that's a bit concerning. Okay, I particularly want to actually move around this area here. Just right clicking. It's not working because I've got highlights. Let's go back to mid-tones and see if that works for us. Maybe because it's on 3%. Makes sense. Alright, let's push that up. Take the tones off. Now it's working. It's giving me like a dull colour. Let's protect those tones. See, even I make mistakes. What I do want to highlight is this area here, because I'm actually going to do some effects. Alright, with the burn tool, I just want to make the black curtains darker, because I'm going to do a little bit of masking as well. So in there, I just want the shadows to be affected. There's my burn. Doesn't affect the mid-tones. That was easy. Okay, masking. Now, I'm going to mask, but I'm going to need to have no image underneath, because whatever I delete in the background is going to show underneath. So I'm going to create a new layer, drop it in there. I need to have the same color of black as underneath layer. I'm going to edit and fill with foreground color, which is black, and there is the black. So let's mask this. Masking tool, brush, black is in front, white is in back. Right click, make the brush bigger, bigger again. That looks a bit fake, but that's okay, we'll fix that up later. I do want to take that little bulgy thing off the top there. And here we have mask just in there. If you want to do some more, if you want to take away all the background, some of your images may need to have more masking. Go to the quick selection tool, select all the black. Luckily it's a dark black. Hold down shift, you can get more of it. Okay, zooming in to see how it's going. It's looking alright. So in here, that's where we're working. Edit fill. And there she is there. Now of course it's not perfect, so I'm just going to go around and make it a little bit, oops, wrong one. It's always a good idea. So I'm going to go back to front. To press my shift key, and that sort of lags it on. So I'm in there, hold the shift, and it lags on a little bit better. I've got my shift key on, that's why it's lagging. Gives you a nice soft edge. Pressing my space key down to scroll across. Looks alright. I just want to fix, oops, Command Z. Fix what's going on in there. I might bring some of that information back. It's happening around there to show that there's a bit of squiggles. Especially around here, I'm just going to loosen up the brush so the hardness is a little bit more clever. It's not so soft. Just bring some of these little curly bits out. There we go. Back to the soft edge. Zoom back. Okay, so that's the image we're working with.